Welcome once again to Ask a Lawyer here on CP24. Good to have you along for another half hour. John Scholes here, my co-host and employment lawyer. My intrepid pal, Lior Stanfiru, will be on your screen momentarily to give you the goods. We have lots to cover on this week in the show. As we ever do, there's going to be a main topic, which we always cover, an important one this week as well. Severance pay when a business closes. We'll get to that in just a little bit. We got phone calls from our radio show, emails, questions. It's going to be busy, busy, busy. But off the top, I'd like to give you some contact information to reach out to Lior and his team anytime on your own time. Phone number first, 1-855-821-5900. Ask at EmploymentLawyer.ca. There's some other things like PocketEmploymentLawyer.ca you can use as well, which Lior will refer to during the show as well. And then we'll take a little bit of a sidestep later on to get to James Fireman, who covers the disability portion of the firm. He'll be here to talk to us for a few minutes as well. So like I said, it's really busy. Let's get down to brass tacks, Lior. We always start off with a week that was case of the day, pal. There he is. What's going on this week?
Hey, John. Great to be here as usual to talk about employment law. You know, I'm here for half hour each week on CP24, but the rest of the time I spend in my office answering questions, talking to people about their rights, helping them understand what the law can do for them, how to deal with the bad employer, how to deal with the situation where they lost their job or they're being discriminated against, or how to deal with situation where the job they used to have is no longer the job they have. There's so many things that come up. There's so many issues, but guess what? There's always solutions. It's one thing to talk about problems. It's much more important to talk about the solutions and the answers because there are solutions. The law is quite extensive when it comes to employment law. There's almost always an answer. There's almost always rights that you have. And the good way to start learning is on the show. But beyond the 30 minutes of the show, you could do like so many others do and call me in the office, email me in the office. That contact information, we'll share that with you throughout the show. Don't be bashful. There's always answers, and I want everyone to know their employment law rights. And now that we know what we want to do, let's do it. Let me tell you about a situation that came across my desk. Now, John, I often get contacted by people that call about someone that they know, about their spouse or their parents, their friends, their neighbors. Well, this situation I'm going to tell you about is a perfect example. I got contacted by a very nice lady who was worried about her daughter's situation. Her daughter was let go from her job after 14 years as an assistant store manager at a retailer. And when she was let go, it was a restructuring. She was paid 8 weeks of severance. It wasn't even offered. They were just paid that amount of money. Well, guess what? This lady contacts me and she says, well, I'm concerned about my daughter's termination. She's been there for 14 years. Shouldn't that 8 weeks have been 14 weeks? Don't they owe another 6 weeks pay? I think they should. And I wanted to talk to you and find out if I was right. Well, I talked to her and no, she wasn't right. Not even close to being right. Because her daughter, that had worked for 14 years, was not owed 14 weeks pay. She was owed 12 months pay, 12 months of severance. Now, this is a very common situation where people believe that there's this magical threshold of a week per year of service if you lose your job. So if I work for 10 years, I get 10 weeks, etc. That is wrong. That is false. That's not even close to being the law. The law looks at a few factors: your age, your position, and the length of your employment. Those are the main ones. And for this lady, that means 12 months of pay. You know, and I kept thinking, if they had only paid her 14 weeks, she wouldn't have known and her mother would have thought it was fine. Luckily, she called me and we now know she's owed 12 months and I'm going to help her get that 12 months. But I wanted to remind everyone there, if you lose your job, it's not a week per year of service. By the way, it's not 2 weeks per year of service. For many people, most people, it's significantly more than that. A good place to start to call me. If you lose your job, whether you work for 14 years or 14 months or any other period of time, there's a great chance you're owed much more than you realize. So I always want to talk to you.
Yeah, the scary thing is the order, even if she was ordered given double 2 weeks, which is still off the mark, a lot of people would see that as a lottery ticket and run with it, mistakenly, right?
Well, imagine that mother, if her daughter was paid 2 weeks per year, so that's 28 weeks, that's 6.5 months, she would have thought her daughter was doing great. She would have told her daughter, you just take this and be happy. And that still would have been half of what she was actually owed. So that's why it's so important, and we'll give you tools throughout the show as to how you find out how much severance you're owed. But really the easiest thing is just reach out, phone and email. I'm here to talk to you. And some people think that it's a waste of time because they're not owed anymore. I'm here to tell you, you are owed more. I've been doing this for 23 years. In almost every case, a person that's been let go is owed more severance than they realize.
Beyond this TV show, as you know, radio is another place where we like to spread the knowledge, Lior. We do that for an hour locally here in the GTA. News Talk 1010 is where you can find us Sundays 1 p.m. for a whole hour. Call in, ask your questions, get some quick answers, and continue on from there. Want to get to our first phone call as well from the radio show. When you reach out to Lior as well, 1-855-821-5900. Ask at EmploymentLawyer.ca. I want to mention that QR code you can scan as well. But the phone call is where it's going to land, Lior. Let's get to that right now.
I had my injury at work, and I was on workers' compensation. I was notified that I could return to work, which I've been with for 20 years, with the modified duties and modified hours. When I returned back, I found out that I was reporting to a director from a different department. He was handling now the area that I was handling for over 20 years. Can they do this to me?
What do you think, pal? How's it sound?
So obviously, this is very uncomfortable. You're off sick, you've been injured, you come back to work and you find out you're doing a different job. And maybe it's even embarrassing. They took away your responsibilities. Now you're reporting to someone that you didn't used to be reporting to before. Is this, punishment for being sick? It's certainly uncomfortable. So potentially one we may have here is a human rights violation, potentially, if they did this because he was sick, because they didn't think he could do his job with his physical limitations. But certainly what we could be looking at here is a constructive dismissal. Remember, constructive dismissal happens if your employer changes your terms of employment in a significant way. This may mean that he could treat this change as a termination and get his full severance. Of course, then the final issue to discuss is how much severance he's owed. For that, we're going to use our tool, the severance calculator. You find that at EmploymentLawyer.ca. It's completely free and anonymous. Let's use that and see how much severance he would be owed in this situation. So he's 56 years of age, is a director, been there for 20 years, long time. You can see right there in yellow, he's owed 18 to 24 months of severance. Up to 2 years of pay is what he's owed here. So whether it's a regular dismissal or a constructive dismissal, you have significant entitlements, and the fastest, easiest way to find out in seconds how much you're owed, just go to EmploymentLawyer.ca and use that severance calculator.
All right, Lior, we're going to keep it rolling. Got to take a short break. As you know, we'll come back with our main topic, severance pay when a business closes. That is on the way as we continue here with Ask a Lawyer. Stay with us.
Lost your job? Disability denied? Ask a Lawyer is here for you. Each week, experts from EmploymentLawyer.ca answer your questions. Visit cp24.com/askalawyer and watch Mondays and Wednesdays at 9 p.m. on CP24.
All right, welcome back to Ask a Lawyer, CP24. John Scholes, Lior Sanfiru, always in attendance. I'll give you some details on how to reach out to Lior right now. The phone number, there's a good start, 1-855-821-5900. Ask at EmploymentLawyer.ca as well. It is main topic time, and this one, it's a big one. Severance pay when a business closes. Lior, want to get right into this. A business, do they have to pay severance to employees when they close permanently? Because it depends, right?
Well, John, the answer here is a resounding yes. Absolutely. If you work for a company and they've decided to shut down, that does not relieve the company from its obligation to pay severance. The law doesn't pause. The law doesn't stop just because a company is out of business. They have to pay that severance. Now, the question sometimes is, well, do they have money to do that? Well, that's a different issue. In most cases, they do. They may own equipment, materials, property. They may have accounts receivables that they own. And all those things have to be used to pay your financial obligations, including severance. Now, the exception to that may be a situation where a company is formally in bankruptcy. Not when they shut the doors, not when they don't operate anymore, when they're actually petitioned into bankruptcy. If they're formally in bankruptcy proceedings, that may mean that you will not get your severance, or at least you may only get a tiny portion of it. But again, that's a very different thing than going out of business. For most people, even if the company is shutting down, yes, they have to pay severance, but the word of advice here is this: act quickly. You don't want them to be gone and closed for months before you pursue this. You want to deal with this as soon as you know you lost your job.
Lior, can that employer give you notice as part of or all of instead of insurance? Rather severance? What do you think?
Well, we often see that when a company knows it's going to shut down, it gives the employees advance notice. So employer, we're telling you that 6 months from now, we're closing down, so you're going to be out of a job. So yes, an employer is allowed to give you advance notice, and that notice counts towards your severance. So it does count. It's part of your severance. So if you're owed 6 months severance, your employer, instead of that, could give you 6 months advance notice that your employment comes to an end. Here's, though, the important thing. In my experience, and I see this every single day, even when a company gives advance notice, they don't give enough notice. So let's say you're owed 10 months severance. Maybe the company gives you 4 months notice. Well, 4 is less than 10. That means they would have to make up that difference by way of severance. So even if you've received advance notice of termination, there's still an excellent chance you're still owed severance beyond that. So again, the rule applies. If you lost the job with or without notice, you have to give me a call.
Third question, always a big one, Lior. How much is severance pay?
So I've convinced people, yes, they're owed severance. They want to know how much. Well, again, every person is different. And remember, the company's size, the company's sophistication, none of that factors in. All the factors that affect severance are individual. The main factors are your age, your position, and the length of your employment. The longer you work, the older you are, and the more senior a position, the more severance. There's other factors. Anything that can impact your ability to find another job is a legitimate factor to consider in assessing severance. Remember, short service employees are treated disproportionately better than longer service employees, so that's something you want to keep in mind. And of course, always just check out the severance calculator. EmploymentLawyer.ca is the way to do that. Call me. You'll probably be surprised by how much you're owed. And remember, it's not a week per year of service or 2 weeks per year of service. It's significantly more than that.
All right, Lior, we got some time to grab another phone call. Reminder, radio show, Sundays, 1 p.m., News Talk 1010, locally right here in the GTA. Tune in, call in, and maybe your voice will appear on a later episode of this show. Listen up, Al. Here it comes.
I was laid off in late from a federally regulated company as a temporary layoff, and they have not called me back. They laid me off due to shortage of work, which I have discovered was not necessarily a shortage of work, because they have hired people in my department since my layoff, and I'm wondering what my recourse could be in that regard.
Good question.
Excellent question. The key to remember is this, that for most people, a temporary layoff is not legal. And that's true regardless of why they put you on a temporary layoff. It's true whether or not they used seniority or kept other people. Either way, even if you're the only employee, for most people, a temporary layoff is not allowed. That means if you're put on a temporary layoff, you have a choice. Choice number one, or option number one, is you can accept it and wait and home and see if they call you back to work. That's option one. Option two, though, is you can choose to consider your employment as being terminated and force the company to pay you your full severance. Again, we call this constructive dismissal. And that may be better. It's better perhaps to pursue this as a constructive dismissal and get your severance, because if you accept the temporary layoff and get called back to work, what you've potentially done there is given the company the right to do it again and again. And that's not something you want to be doing. So regardless whether you're federally regulated or provincially regulated, same thing applies for most people. A temporary layoff not allowed. If you're put on one before you do anything, you have to give me a call.
All right, we're going to take a short break here. Lior's going to take a breath, and we're going to get James Fireman in here from the disability side of the firm on to talk about some important things. That is on the other side of the break on Ask a Lawyer, so stick with us. We are coming right back.
Lost your job? Disability denied? Ask a Lawyer is here for you. Each week, experts from EmploymentLawyer.ca answer your questions. Visit cp24.com/askalawyer and watch Mondays and Wednesdays at 9 p.m. on CP24.
All right, welcome back. Ask a Lawyer here on CP24. As promised, we switch gears a little bit. The other half of what the firm does at EmploymentLawyer.ca is disability law. And in that regard, I got my good pal James Farman here, disability lawyer, of course, going to talk shop for a bit. James, what is it you do, pal?
Well, much like Lior does on the employment side with people who have issues with their employment situations, our disability group is there to help you if you're having an issue with your disability insurance. Most people don't spend a lot of time thinking about their disability insurance. It's just something that's there until they become disabled and can't work anymore. And unfortunately, most of those people come to find out that the disability insurance process is complicated, it's confusing, and it leaves people frustrated. And that's what we're here for. If you are engaging with your disability insurer and you're having any issues, whether you've just applied or whether you are discussing with your insurer what documents you need, or if they've already processed your claim and it's been denied, or even if it's been approved and they're giving you a hassle for whatever reason, that's what we're here for. Give us a call. It's a free consultation. And if we have to, we can look at starting litigation if your benefits have been denied or cut off.
James did mention that call in
consultation.
Thank you. That's the big word. I'm going to give you some contact information for James right now. Phone number first, same one, 1-855-821-5900. But the email, ask@disabilityrights.ca. That's how you do that. And again, scan the QR code. First question for you on the show this week, James. Audio question. Listen up, pal. It's coming up right now.
Can I go on long-term disability for stress and anxiety caused by my workplace?
Okay, so the short answer to this is absolutely yes. I want to give you a real-life example that can illustrate why what seems so simple can become complicated, frustrating, and confusing. So I had a client, and we'll call her Justine. She was an HR executive, and she'd been working for many, many years. She had gone on a brief leave and came back. And there was a new supervisor she was reporting to, and there was just an enormous personality conflict. It started off badly, and it spiraled from there. She was having severe anxiety and panic attacks and had to go on leave. So she applies for disability benefits, and she's denied, even though her doctors are saying, you cannot work. You're disabled. You cannot work. Your anxiety, your panic attacks are preventing you from being able to do it. The insurer said no. And the reason they cited is because they said, well, this isn't really a disability claim. This is a workplace issue. This is because of a toxic work environment. Well, if you look at your policy, there is nothing in a disability insurance policy that says if your disability is caused by a toxic work environment or an employment issue, that you're not entitled to disability benefits. That is not how it works. If you have a medically supported disability that is preventing you from doing your own occupation, then you're entitled to disability benefits. And so Justine gave me a call, described what happened, and I saw the notes, and I saw that the insurer had targeted this as a toxic workplace environment and gave her that rationale. Within 10 months of her giving me that call, we were at a mediation and we resolved her claim. They not only paid everything that they owed up until the date of mediation, but paid her 5 years into the future, partially because the medical documents warranted that, but also because they understood that because of the way that they had handled the claim, they had exposure to possibly paying punitive damages because they had acted in bad faith.
Well done, sir. Nicely done. I got a second question for you. This one I get to read. Hopefully I can get through it. How long do long-term disability insurance benefits last?
In most cases, disability benefits will pay you up until 65. In some cases, they might be cut off earlier, especially if you have a pension, but for most people, 65 is as far as it will go. But the definition in the policy says for as long as you remain disabled. So the answer is really up until 65 or when you're no longer disabled from your workplace.
James, thanks as always, pal. We're going to flip back to Lior with yet another phone call from our radio show, so stick around for that. We got lots to get through as we continue Ask a Lawyer here on CP24. Don't go anywhere.
Lost your job? Disability denied? Ask a Lawyer is here for you. Each week, experts from EmploymentLawyer.ca answer your questions. Visit cp24.com/askalawyer and watch Mondays and Wednesdays at 9 p.m. on CP24.
Welcome back to Ask a Lawyer CP24. Here's how you contact Lior, 1-855-821-5900, ask@EmploymentLawyer.ca. We're going to wrap it up with one more phone call. Let's get into that right now.
I've been a salaried employee for 6 years, and my pay is set up where it's salary plus commission. What they've done is they have changed the commission amount, reduced it, but increased the salary. Say in 6 months from now, they decide to let me go. My severance would be as of my new contract, or do they take into account the prior 6 years that I've had, the new contract with the new salary and new commission structure?
This is a very important question. Just because you may sign a new contract partway through employment, or maybe you take on a new job when it comes to your employment, that does not mean that for your severance, that severance starts at that new job. Your full years of service are going to count for your severance. All the jobs that you have, all the time with the company is going to count towards that severance. Now, in terms of your compensation, the compensation that's going to be used to calculate your severance is going to be the compensation structure that you have at the time of termination, but all years count. So of course, for this person, we would want to know how much severance is she going to get if in fact she lost her job. We're going to go back to EmploymentLawyer.ca and let's see what that gives us when we use the severance calculator. She's been there for 6 years. She's 48 years of age in a sales role. We can see that because all those 6 years counts, she's owed as much as 8 months of severance. 8 months. Now, that's including her salary, her commissions, her bonus, her benefits, all components of compensation, not just her salary. So remember, all years of service count, and in some cases, even past years of service, when you left the company and came back, those initial few years of service can count as well towards your severance. So yet another reason to call if you lost your job, because you actually may get credit for more years than you realize.
All right, Lior, we got it all in, but we got to fly. Here's that final phone number and email to get a hold of Lior going forward, 1-855-821-5900, ask@EmploymentLawyer.ca, and for all of the concerns, pocket.EmploymentLawyer.ca as well. We'll see you again next week. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.